Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer. This one's going to be a little bit different. It's mainly going to be shorter. Typically, these videos are about 15 to 20 minutes, but there was only one game tonight, so there's only so much I can talk about. So it'll probably be within the 10-minute range, so I apologize if you do like those longer videos, but this will be something short and sweet real quick. The only game tonight was Game 3 of the Clippers versus the Jazz Western Conference semifinal series, and the Clippers needed this one bad. It was a must-win for the Los Angeles Clippers. You can't go down 3-0 in the NBA, because if you do, it's over. No team has ever come back down 0-3 in a series, and with how good this Utah Jazz team is, it wouldn't be possible against them. So the Clippers needed this one, and they came out and got it done. I said last video, this is the Clippers' chance. They went down 0-2 to a really good team. These aren't the Mavericks. The Jazz are just better, and so this was their chance. They want to show that they want to get past all the narratives, the playoff P stuff for Paul George, the fact that the Clippers can't win, the Clippers are cursed, whatever. This was their chance in this game and overall in this series to prove people wrong and say, hey, we're here, we can do this. And they came out tonight, at least, and did that. They took care of business, winning by 26 points on their home court, which is something they really struggled to do against the Dallas Mavericks, which was very confusing. So it was a breath of fresh air to realize that reality has kind of returned to the NBA, with the home court team actually having some kind of advantage, which was cool to see. So why did the Clippers win this by 26 when the Jazz have been pretty dominant through the first couple games? Even without Mike Conley, the Jazz have looked great. They've been killing it. They've been making their threes. They've been locking up on the defensive end, stifling Kawhi Leonard and Paul George for the most part throughout those first two games. Game 3, the big difference was they didn't stifle those two guys. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were really, really good tonight. They were the reason the Clippers won this game, alongside some role players who we'll talk about in a second. But Kawhi Leonard and Paul George combined for 65 points. I should have done the math before I started recording, but Kawhi Leonard had 34, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, with Paul George putting up 31, 3, and 5 against the Jazz, who he famously has had kind of some issues with. Shout out to OKC PG in Game 6. If you know, you know. But he seems like he's exercising those demons. He was really, really good in this game. Like he was in the first round series. He was good in that series, but people didn't give him quite the credit he deserved. And then he came out in the first couple games of this series and wasn't great. And, people immediately hopped back on the playoff P, pandemic P bandwagon. And now he's playing good again. So we'll see what people have to say about that one. But just him and Kawhi refused to go down 0-3 like they could have also gone in the Mavericks series, but similarly, they fought back. Kawhi Leonard just doesn't seem to lose game 3s, especially when he's down 0-2. Also in this game, typically, people say that role players play better at home, and that was what happened tonight, specifically with Nick Batum dropping 17, Reggie Jackson, who has been so good recently, which is crazy, 17 points as well. 7 from Terrence Mann, 6 from Luke Kennard, and 7 from Patrick Beverley, who's been kind of invisible for a lot of this playoff run so far. So good to see for the Clippers that he is showing up, because they're going to need him going forward. They need his defense, but if he's a liability on the offensive end, he just can't be out there. So winning by 26 points, it was just an all-around effort from the Clippers, but also they made some good adjustments, and this is kind of where I want to talk about Tyronn Lue and why he's one of the most confusing coaches in all of basketball to me at this point. I'll go real quick and talk through the Jazz's stats. So Donovan Mitchell had a classic Donovan Mitchell type playoff performance, the way that he has shown us he can do. 30 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. It was just really the supporting cast that didn't step up too much. Only 9 for Bojan Bogdanovic. Royce O'Neal had a good game with 12 points. Rudy Gobert had 12, which is all right. 19 from Ingles is good, but really Jordan Clarkson with only 14, they need more from him. They, of course, miss Mike Conley's production. They missed that badly. Georges Niang had an awful game tonight. He had a 3-possession stretch where it was missed shot, turnover, both those turnovers leading to buckets for the Clippers on the other end of the ball. It was just a bad stretch for him, and overall he was just not productive. 0 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists. They need better from him if he's going to play off the bench. Derek Favors played a lot of minutes in this game, and I don't necessarily know why. I feel like Rudy Gobert could have played more. He only played 30 minutes, and with Bojan playing 36, 35 for Royce O'Neal, 32 from Donovan Mitchell, I would have liked to see him get more, given this did turn into a blowout at the end, whatever. But really, one of the main reasons the Clippers won this game was Tyronn Lue's adjustments. I ripped him in the After the Buzzer video after Game 2 of the Dallas Clippers series. I said that I need Tyronn Lue to do something, because up to that point, he had done absolutely nothing. He made no adjustments through those first 2 games. And then he comes out in game 3 and makes a billion adjustments. Reggie Jackson starts, Nick Batum starts, both those guys start together. Reggie Jackson plays a lot of minutes. They focus on small ball. They run a little bit of a zone here and there. And they beat the Mavericks in game 3, beat them in game 4, and go on to win the series. The same thing happened here. Through the first 2 games, Tyronn Lue made no adjustments, and they lost 2 games to a Mike Conley-less Jazz team. Given the Jazz are at home and they still are a really good team even without Mike Conley, you should be able to beat them. They're down an all-star. And so, I said in my last video, the Clippers and Tyronn Lue, as a collective, need to come into this game and win to prove people wrong. There's a lot of narratives going on around about them, and a lot of them kind of seem true if this is a series that they choke away. Not choke away, but if this is a series that they end up losing with championship aspirations. Narratives of the Clippers can't get it done, Paul George can't perform in the playoffs, whatever, Tyronn Lue's not a good coach, whatever you want to say. There's a lot of narratives about this team, and they need to do all they can to prove these narratives wrong. And Tyronn Lue made great adjustments. I don't know why he waited till game 3 again. This is why he's so confusing to me, because coming into this coaching job, I knew he was at least a pretty good coach, or at least like an above average coach. You don't win a championship as a bad coach very often. I'm trying to think of an example of it right now, and none are coming to my head. I'm sure there's examples out there. But you really don't win a championship as a below average coach in this league. You need good coaching, because if you go up against a good coach, like typically you're going to in the NBA Finals, you're just going to get outmatched unless you have way more talent. If you're like an awful coach and you have like Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, like the 2018 Warriors, then maybe you can still do it even if you're a bad coach against a really good coach with just less talent. That's possible. But Tyronn Lue had to at least be an above average coach, not just because he won a finals, but because of the fashion in which he won it. And I think it's kind of showing what Tyronn Lue's big strength is between that series and between what we're seeing now. Tyronn Lue's big strength is adjustments. Not just adjustments to start the series or in game 2, but when his team goes down big, he is willing to make radical, sometimes seemingly crazy adjustments to get his team back in the series. And they work. In the 2016 NBA Finals, the Cavaliers went down 3-1 against the team with the best record in the history of basketball, the unanimous MVP, whatever you want to say, the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. And he made adjustments. Kevin Love played more minutes at the 5. They switched some things around. They switched up defensive matchups. They ran different sets. They switched up their game plan a lot of the time, and it worked. And they won that series. Tyronn Lue, through the first 2 games of the Mavericks series, made no adjustments. And after that, he turned into Greg Popovich, made incredible adjustments, and they won the series. Starting Reggie Jackson, starting Nick Batum, these were things that maybe people could have thought of doing. But I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw Reggie Jackson was starting in game 3, I was like, oh, Tyronn Lue has thrown the series. I was not optimistic about it. And he also decided to stop playing Rajon Rondo in that series. He just wasn't playing that well. And so they switched things up. They got it done. They focused on letting Luka Doncic get less of those switches and getting more possessions of Kawhi on Luka. And that's what they did tonight as well. Donovan Mitchell has had way too many possessions in this series where he's not being guarded by Kawhi Leonard. You have Kawhi Leonard on your roster. Use him to guard Donovan Mitchell. He did it. Tyronn Lue did it. He finally started using Kawhi Leonard more on Donovan Mitchell, and it worked. For the first half, or at least for the first quarter, Donovan Mitchell couldn't really do anything. They were still kind of in the game because Joe Ingles was performing really well through that first quarter, but the Clippers left the first quarter with a lead, and they left with momentum, and they ended up leading by 15 points at halftime. And at that point, the Jazz had a chance to climb back, obviously, but when you have that much momentum at home, and you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George balling out of their minds, you're probably going to win the game. And so all you have to do is not get in a hole. And unlike the series that they keep playing in, they didn't get in a hole tonight. Tyronn Lue made good moves. He played Zubac a decent amount of minutes, despite there being that stat out there that like if Zubac plays like this amount of minutes, this team, that the Clippers don't win. But Zubac had some good minutes. Like I said, he brought in Patrick Beverley. Luke Kennard has been a revelation for this team because he was getting coaches DNPs. He was getting coaches DNPs for games on end. He didn't play for like the last half of the regular season. And he comes into this series, they randomly go, "Hey, Luke Kennard, we're calling your number." And he goes, "Okay." And he's been good. He's been good. He's been bad defensively, which is what you expect, but he's been getting buckets. He hits timely shots. He had a couple timely threes in this game that helped the Clippers stave off Jazz runs. Exactly what they need from him. They just need him to hit a couple threes a game. That's all they need. And he's been super good at that. Terrence Mann played 22 minutes tonight, and he was great in those minutes. 7 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. The numbers don't pop, but he played good defense, and he did what he had to do. He knew his role on the court. And so Tyronn Lue's strength is adjustments. I don't know why it takes him until his team is down 2 games in series to make these big adjustments, but he makes them. And so the answer to, is Tyronn Lue a good coach, is yeah. I think Tyronn Lue is a good coach. Like I said, you don't win a championship, especially against a team like the Warriors, without being a good coach. LeBron James definitely helps. Kyrie Irving definitely helps. Kevin Love definitely helps. So do Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, if you're now talking about Tyronn Lue coaching the Clippers. But at the same time, these same players on the court lost those last 2 games. They played better in this game because they were at home, but the reason the Jazz didn't also try and match that was because of the adjustments he made. In the second half, did Donovan Mitchell start going off? Yeah, it's Donovan Mitchell. It's going to happen. But when Donovan Mitchell started going off, the other guys on the team kind of slowed down. They focused more, when Donovan Mitchell was just hitting shots, they've moved a little bit more into a zone, and they were forcing Donovan Mitchell to make plays. Donovan Mitchell is going to make plays, but at the same time, he is nursing a hurt ankle, which we saw him re-aggravate towards the end of the game. They're forcing Donovan Mitchell to do all of the creation for this team. And while he's good, he misses Mike Conley bad. This team in general misses Mike Conley. If you force Donovan Mitchell to do absolutely everything in that second half after he already was clamped up in the first half, at some point, he's just going to run out of gas. So, Tyronn Lue made good adjustments. The Clippers came out and win. They won a must-win game, and that's big. Tyronn Lue, still very confusing as a coach. We'll see what he does next game. Or if the Clippers go in a 3-1 hole, then I'd be very interested to see what decisions he makes, because at that point, you just got to go balls to the wall, do whatever you've got to do. Maybe we get Zubac at point guard. Who knows? I would love to see that. We'll see what happens. But for right now, the Clippers stave off the potential 0-3 deficit, which they would not come back from. No team has ever done that. And we move on into game 4. The couple really good games tomorrow. I'm excited for them. We've got Bucks Nets, and I think it's Suns Nuggets in game 4, which I think the Suns end up winning. If I had to pick Bucks Nets, I really don't know. I would love to see the Bucks tie this up 2-2, so I could eat my words about calling the Nets unbeatable, because that's better for basketball. So we'll see what happens in those 2 games. I appreciate you watching this video. What do you think about Tyronn Lue as a coach? Do you think he's a bad coach, a good coach, an average coach? What do you think? And what do you think about this series? Do the Jazz need Mike Conley to win it? Can they win another game and the series without Mike Conley, or is it just too much from the Clippers? Did the Clippers show you what they were made of in this game? I appreciate you watching this video. I will see you guys later. Everyone, say it back.